Hello, everyone. Welcome to Writer's Showcase number 14. Happy to have all of my lovely guests here. We're just going to try and keep things to 2 hours today. I have a lot of things going on, to say the least. But I know that our wonderful guests today are going to entertain and delight you with their work. So allow me to bring on the first guest.
Hello! Yes, I'm still using my other avatar because it is the month of October, and October is ghost stories. So yes.
The nice thing is mine is applicable to all months of the year.
Yeah.
Let me see. And also, please welcome.
I have returned!
Indeed. Marxism
From
intensifies.
last week.
Marxism intensifies indeed.
I don't know, maybe I should update my intro video to something from like Enemy at the Gates.
If you could send me like
See if I can dig out some propaganda piece.
Yeah, if you can send me some 5 to 10 second clip, go for it.
Hello, Kaiju God.
Hello.
Hello, indeed.
Alrighty. So, I think we should have a couple other people coming on, but only one of them's maybe.
Okay.
So let's get started. How about we go with Neph Champion first, then Carl Sailor, then Kaiju God, and then me, and we'll just go in that circle. And then as other people come on, I'll be able to read their stuff. Sound good?
All right. Okay.
Okie dokie.
So, I believe last week I read something I called Thrown Out, right?
Hmm?
Thrown Out. It doesn't sound familiar.
Nope.
That's the Legend of Zelda fanfic that wasn't Sword Art Online.
Yes. That's
Yep.
the one.
Yep, sounds right.
Okay. So, and what I read was actually my second sample because my first one, nobody was going to understand what was going on because that was the end. So, this week I'm going to read sample 3, which I've called Finding Another Home, and it takes place exactly the moment after the other one ends. And I've been writing it in sample form because I've just had no idea how to do it otherwise, and I'm using discovery writing to write it. So they are again in the Lost Woods after having gone through Kokiri Village. Soria, Link asked, when his friend stopped halfway across the bridge. What is beyond here? Beyond this point, Soria said, as her guiding hand let go of his, is Hyrule Field, and to the northwest you will find Hyrule Castle Town and Hyrule Castle itself. The great Deku Tree wanted to speak to you before you left, but as I saw, Mido preempted our father. He wanted you to speak with the princess and deliver this to her. Saria pulled. Was that? But I can't take that, Link said, shaking his head. That's the Kokiri treasure. You need to take it, Saria replied softly, pushing the emerald into his hands. You should be able to find a home in either Castletown or the castle itself. The emerald is your ticket inside. We don't want anything to happen to you, Link. Link bit the inside of his cheek as his fingers closed numbly around the treasure of the Kokiri and slowly placed it into his pack. His eyes never left his oldest friend. Now, Link, you should be able to get to the gates of Hyrule Castle by sunset. If you can't, stay on the road, Saria cautioned her much taller friend. I think I can do that, Link agreed in a small voice. But I don't have anything to use to defend myself. And don't monsters come out at night? They do. But the monsters tend to stay clear of the road, Saria replied. The fastest way is to cut across the field. Link nodded slowly, doing his best to commit his best friend's words to memory. He took one last look back towards the village that had been his childhood home. Then he looked down at Saria. He hesitated for a long moment before wrapping his powerful arms around the tiny girl and cried into her bright green hair. Saria hugged back for a few minutes before pulling away. You are burning daylight, Link, she husked him gently. You need to go now, before Mido gets the bright idea to check the bridge. Carefully, Link pulled away from her and gave her a nod. He gave her the saddest smile Saria had ever seen and ran out of the dark forest, out into the bright end of dawn. For a moment, Link had to keep his eyes covered to let his eyes adjust to the brightness of the morning light. Even in the village of the Kokiri, the light hadn't been this bright. Link looked back at the entrance to the woods one last time before hurrying on his way, running in the direction of Hyrule Castle and the safety of the market. He could see it in the distance. That was his destination. Link gave a quiet cry when the sun started to set, and he threw himself forward, gasping in relief as he rolled down the closing drawbridge. That was before he landed at a heap at the bottom of it. Ouch! He uncurled, rubbing his head and shoulders. At least I made it inside, Link said to himself with a tired sigh. Well, he couldn't do anything that Saria had told him to do for their father. But he could take care of everything in the morning. He'd never gone so long without eating before, and he was starving. He needed to find an inn to stay in and dinner. After that, he could search out Princess Zelda. And that's the end.
That was short.
Not bad.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
a good short flash. That was a good short fiction. Nice.
Nice and concise. Yeah. Although I have to say I was triggered by the phrase "safety of the market." Yeah.
Well, that's what Castletown is called in the game, so I figured I could get away with doing that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that there actually was one thing. When Saria says, "Link, you're burning daylight," that always brings up something that I've always tried to shy away from in fantasy or just any sort of alternate setting. The use of modern phrases, or I don't want to use the word cliche, but that is basically.
No, I know. Once I put it all together into a first chapter, I'm going to edit that, but I didn't know how else to convey that he had to get going or he'd be stuck outside on the road for the night.
Yes. But I tend to find this is where the a lot of the creativity comes from in writing, and particularly in world building. Not so much in terms of fan fiction, but just coming up with creative ways of saying the same phrases or the same idioms. Just different ways of saying the same thing while still communicating those same ideas.
Mm.
I mentioned this in the previous live stream about about conlanging and coming up with the pragmatics of different languages, and this is part of the same way. You're coming up with not just like the words to put on the page, but the words that people use to express what ideas they have in their head.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, this
one
is-
second.
Before I rant about the superior warp hypothesis for another 3 hours.
So, 1 second. We just barely got another guest get to come on.
Okay.
Allow me to bring him in.
Doing. Huh. Yeah, that's
Welcome
an accurate
aboard.
one. Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh,
Hello,
hello.
Krish.
How are y'all doing?
We are
Pretty
doing
good. How are you?
pretty good.
I don't feel like deep throating a 12 gauge, if that's good.
Me, I'm just getting teary-eyed over reading Get a Robo. So,
That's cool. Any more thoughts on? I don't know. Did you catch Neph's piece?
yeah, I had captured some of it. I have no comment. Mainly because I wasn't really paying attention.
No, that's okay.
Unfortunately, I missed it because my cat got tangled up in a plastic bag.
Aww. Oh, that's too bad. You'll have to go back and listen to it again then.
Yeah. So what is this fan fiction? It's I know it's Zelda.
I've called it A Link to Power, and it's where Link has the Triforce of Power instead of the Triforce of Courage for some reason. Zelda has courage, and Ganondorf gets wisdom.
Oh my! So Ganondorf. I'm assuming Ganondorf in this continuity is more like a schemer,
Yes, he's very much a schemer.
and Link is shonen protagonist.
Basically, yes. I mean, it can work. Both Yokai and I got to chatting about it, so we're both using the same kind of idea. But in his, he has a completely different setup. He's stepped away from the game that we used as the base completely, while I'm using the game as kind of a bit of a guide until I figure out what the hell I'm doing.
Which game specifically?
It's Ocarina of Time.
Oh, time travel.
Yeah, that one. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But we decided that because Link has power instead of courage, that's going to butterfly to the point where time travel's not necessarily going to be needed.
Okay.
So instead of being 9, 10 years old, Link is more like 13 to 14 when he finally pulls the sword out of the pedestal.
Okay.
And what I just read was Link arriving in Castletown.
Okay. So is it just Link? There's no other characters with him other than maybe Navi?
I've decided that Navi is going to end up being Zelda's companion instead of Link's. So he's alone at the moment. I may have someone else travel with him for a bit, but not into the dungeons.
Anyone
Okay.
want to place bets on how long before Zelda shuts up Navi with a burst of magic?
Navi is actually not as bad as Fee, the spirit of the Master Sword.
Oh, I like Fee.
Yeah, I know. I like Fee too. But the way she just comes out and tells you what just happened, it gets annoying. So
You know what'd be
Especially
really
when your
funny?
Wii remote is low on batteries.
yes.
Yeah. You know what would be really funny is if Link and Zelda sold Navi. They just sold her.
Well, it depends if in this continuity Zelda joins Link in this adventure instead of being trapped in a castle.
Oh, she is. She's going to join him for at least some of it. She's not going to join him for the first 3, which he still needs, because I actually just went, fuck it, I'm not going to do the first dungeon. So I had to get the emerald to Link's a different way. So I had the Decatry give Saria the Kokiri emerald to give to Link before he left.
Nice.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Link is still going to end. Well, fortunately, I don't know. He's still going to end up with the Zora Sapphire, which is, engagement ring. Oh, yes.
Oh yes.
Is Link finally going to tap that Zelda?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I've
Okay,
decided
fine.
he is going to tap Zelda.
Okay, here's another question.
He fucking deserves it. I'm just going to say that. He deserves something from saving this Bent's life over and over.
Throughout all of time and space.
Exactly.
Well, canonically, he does get to tap her at the end of Skyward Sword, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are we kidding? We've all seen that particular meme.
Yes.
Alrighty. Carl, I believe it is your turn.
Right. Well, as you may have known if you watched the stream about the creative process, I have recently opened up through my Patreon page a secret Discord server where you can watch me write my next book in real time. And as a special treat, I have a snippet from the first chapter that I'm going to read from here. There will be a bit of a spoiler for the end of the first book, but I think I'm willing to chance that. So, here goes. Chapter 1 of The Sands of Isafar. Regrouping. Lord Wingate's thoughts were all on his wife as he made his way down towards the Lord's Hall at the very lowest level of the Dawn Palace. It was a few minutes before midday. Amelia would definitely have received his telegram by now. Lord Wingate still carried the receipt from the wire office in his pocket. A terse message expressing as little information as possible about the situation in the capital, while still reassuring his beloved Amelia of his own safety and affection for her. It wasn't only for her sake. Telegraph operators had a dreadful reputation for being gossips and rumor mills. I'll write her a letter explaining everything, Lord Wingate reminded himself. He promised as much in his telegram. Just as soon as this meeting is concluded. With that thought, Lord Wingate brought his attention to the room he had just entered. The Lord's Hall. Compared to the rest of the Dawn Palace above it, this circular stone room at the very bottom of the palace was frightfully austere. There were no decorations of any sort, no carpets on the floor, no tapestries nor portraits on the walls. Even the chandelier dangling 4 meters above the center of the room was almost brutally practical. A simple wheel of wrought iron hanging from a chain bearing a wreath of glass candles, and above them a curved mirror reflecting their hard light and heat back down upon the great circular table below. The table itself was a terribly simple thing as well. Unlike the rest of the furniture in the Dawn Palace, which had been carved ornately from black oak, sepia, and other hardwoods, this table had been hammered together from slabs of cheap pine and hastily lacquered over in a crude attempt to prevent splinters. At roughly equal distances along the circumference of the table stood 28 chairs, one for each of the lords of Auroran old nobility. 15 of those chairs were already filled. 15 men, and the chamber was silent as a tomb. Malden has arrived, Lord Wingate announced to the room as he closed and latched the heavy wooden door behind him. He'll be along in a few minutes. I believe he's the last one. Aye, Lord Mortimer Helmuth Malthusian nodded. We'll begin as soon as he arrives. What about Stolos? Lord Corwin ventured, as timidly as everything else he ever did. Is he not also coming? Surely we ought to wait for him as well. I have informed young Stolos about this gathering at least twice already, Lord Malthusian sighed. He knows well enough what we are about. If he chooses not to show his face here, that's his own business. Nobody protested. As Lord Wingate took a seat in the empty chair beside Lord Harlock, the man leaned in and asked softly, Nothing on Bundwick, then? Albert isn't coming, Lord Wingate replied in a low voice. Malden says he's carrying on with the fleet exercises at South Sands. You do realize that Bundwick is head of the fleet now, Lord Harlock said uneasily. With Hanscom dead, he is the next most senior fleet officer. I am aware of that, Lord Wingate said, trying to keep the disgust from his voice. Admiral the Lord Albert Cassius Bundwick, or Bundwick the Bootlicker, as he was called whenever he was beyond hearing, was exactly the wrong sort of person to head the fleet right now, especially given the imminent return of hostilities against Hadvar. Lord Wingate never thought he would actually miss his bitter rival Hanscom. Say what you will about that cantankerous old git, but at least Hanscom was competent. Finally, after a few more minutes of painful silence, Lord Norwalt Danavar Malden arrived. Right then, let us begin, Lord Malthusian said as Lord Malden took his seat. My lords, I'll not mince words. Her Most Royal Majesty, Queen Cassandra II, beloved of God and supreme ruler of Aurora and all the provinces, is dead. I just heard, Lord Malden said, still settling into his chair. What a tragedy. A monstrous cruelty, Lord Armand Hannibal Blackpool said, with his usual crocodile tears. She was so young, so buxom, so full of life. Confound your sympathies, Armand, Lord Joseph Nicholas Downing blustered. The wiry old man somehow managed to be even more unpleasant than Hanscom had been. She died without leaving a bloody heir. No issue, no prince consort, no living blood kin. The foolish girl didn't even have the foresight to leave behind a bastard or two that we could at least fob off on the throne as a stopgap. Joseph, Lord Blackpool gasped. How can you say such a dreadful thing? My Lord Downing is correct, if ungentle, Lord Malthusian said. The line of the Queens has failed. My lords, we find ourselves in a position that we have successfully managed to avoid for 614 years. A crisis of succession. He swept his hard black gaze across the table. One of us must now ascend the kingship of Aurora, and whosoever does, all the rest must stand behind him as one, or the realm shall crumble. It's a blessing in disguise, I say, Lord Matthias Daedalus Mayfax grumbled as he leaned back precariously in his chair. He tossed his head to flick a fringe of dark brown hair out of his face. We should have switched back to kings a long time ago. Women have no business walking the halls of power, except perhaps as servants. It was no wonder the man was still unmarried at 36. You're a fool, Matthias, Lord Theobald Paracelsus Newton said. Queens make for much more effective propaganda campaigns than kings. The research is quite settled on the matter. I can quote you the statistics if you like. Lord Wingate shook his head. It was just like Theo to reduce everything in life to a science. Not so fast, Theobald, Lord Torrenberg said, his voice as smooth and soft as the luxurious white bear fur lining of his coat. Young Mayfax may have a point. One can hardly expect a member of the weaker sex to be effective at wielding executive authority in matters of state. If by wielding executive authority you mean sticking her fingers where meddling's not wanted, then I say good, harumphed Lord Harlock. Speaking from a purely military perspective, kings have never been a source of reckless adventurism and needless risk-taking. Queens generally aren't in the habit of imposing their own foolhardy stratagems on high command, or personally leading troops into battle, or nonsense like that. Wingate, I'm sure you would agree, don't you?
What?
Lord Wingate jumped at the sudden mention of his name.
Yes, of course.
A round of chuckles rippled around the table. Boring you, are we, Orpheus? Lord Mantusian said. I don't blame you. This discussion is becoming sidetracked. We need to decide how we shall replace the Queen. Lord Wingate wondered how the rest of the lords gathered here would react if they knew what he knew. And I'll stop there for a moment.
Very interesting.
So is this
Very nice.
So this is fantasy, right?
It's it's an alternate world. I've called it steampunk for lack of a better genre.
Okay.
But it's about as close to like reality as could be imagined. There's no magic. There's no fairy or elf races. There's just one single sci-fi resource with their entire war economy extrapolated around that.
Okay.
But apart from that, it's just normal.
I do agree, though. Kings are factually superior to kings. I'm sorry, queens.
I'm not prepared to debate you on this subject at this time.
I'm not.
Well,
I'm
it
just
depends on the
memeing.
person.
I'm just memeing, bro.
I'd say that queens make it easier to determine a line of succession because you know when she's pregnant, and you
I mean,
know,
that is true. That is true.
and you don't.
That is very true. You have a point there.
It's much easier to say, all right, she is definitely pregnant. That baby came from her, as opposed to a king where anybody can say they came from him, especially if he sleeps around.
This is true.
Not inaccurate.
Yeah.
True. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I like the political maneuvering, and I like how there are various people's point of view.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
have so much trouble writing that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the scene goes on quite a bit. It introduces a whole bunch more of them, and you really get a sense that these people, the most powerful people in the country, are just a bunch of children who frankly have no business, having any control whatsoever.
And yet they find themselves in control.
So an episode of South Park.
Well, a little more consequential than an episode of South Park. Yep. But
Well, I mean, Randy did kill Winnie the Pooh. That had consequences.
yeah, honestly, I kind of fell off the wagon after about season 19.
Yeah, I know. Randy starts a weed farm, and then he goes to China, and then murders Winnie the Pooh.
Well, did you? So I actually saw the pandemic special. I only saw one episode beforehand, and what happened in the pandemic special? Randy was the cause of Corona.
Oh God.
That makes so much sense.
House rules, Sammy. Driver picks the music. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Yeah. So, anyways, as I said, you can read more of that by going into my Patreon and using following the link to my secret Discord channel where you can watch me write in real time.
All right.
The link will be posted in the advertiser content section of the Discord server.
Yeah, and it is also in the description of the video, I believe. Alrighty, I believe it is Kaiju God's turn.
Indeed, it is time for Chapter 4. The sun was beginning. Okay, wow, it's going to go great. The sun was beginning to set over the Emerald Forest as Royce and Rezio made their way through in complete silence. Neither particularly cared for the other, but the situation demanded cooperation. Annoyed, Royce decided to try and break the ice. So, where are you from? He asked. Rezio remained silent. Any sign of where we're supposed to go? Where we're supposed to be? He asked. Rezio stopped, turned around, and looked at him with emotionless eyes. I must apologize. I didn't set any rules. You speak when I speak to you. You follow instructions to the letter. Is that clear? Her tone matched her expression. Royce was taken aback by this bizarre specimen of a human. I'm gonna go with no. He paused when her face began to contort into a scowl. Unless I'm getting paid for this. Rezio's face changed to that of pure bafflement. I'm sorry, she asked. Royce pulled out an apple from the pack around his waist and bit into it. See, I'm not some mindless grunt you can pull rank on. He gestured to her uniform. Vacuo Special Forces. Recruiting a little young, though. A smirk crossed his face as he continued. See, if I'm going to hinder our chances of survival, I should at least get something out of it. Rezio gave a small but spiteful sigh. Name your price, she said, very clearly hating this. Royce tossed the apple core into the woods. I'll give 3 options. 10,000 lien, cash, up front. 5,000 in lightning dust, or 1 favor. Royce had the biggest shit-eating grin on his face as he watched the woman try and assess her choices. The 1 favor, she said reluctantly as Royce pulled out his scroll. Now, just so you can't weasel your way out of it, I need you to give me your word that when I cash it in, you'll do it, no matter what it is. Taking a deep breath, Rezio grimaced as she said, I, Rezio Grayson, give my word I'll commit to this favor. Feeling satisfied, Royce put his scroll away, still smiling that shit-eating smile. Gale was following Nyela's lead as watching the woman as she crouched down and began examining the ground. Nyela could pick up trace scents of deer, rabbit, and human. As she examined the ground for tracks, she found two sets. One was familiar, but she couldn't quite figure it out. But the other was Royce. This way, she said, taking a slight right. And when we find him, I want you to apologize for stealing his weapon. Gale placed her hands behind her head. Why? I don't know him. Nyela stopped and gave an almost disapproving mother look. Because your actions could get him killed. He's half as likely to live with only one. Gale cringed back as she was berated. A well of guilt built up in her stomach before she gave in. Fine, she said, running her hands through her green hair. Nyela finally noticed how the hair moved in even its shape. It resembled that of the soft down of baby birds. Good, she smiled before turning and continued to track Royce. His scent was still lingering. He couldn't have gotten too far. So, where are you from? Gale asked. Small mountain village in Mistral, Nyela responded. Vale for me, Gale added awkwardly. She didn't really know how to start a conversation, or at least new people, especially if that person is preoccupied. Suddenly, a pungent smell hit Nyela, causing her causing her to recoil back. Gale could smell it too, the distinct smell of blood. However, there was something equally as strong mixed in. It smelled like something akin to vomit or bile. But the most alarming thing was that Royce's scent was mixed in. Nyla's eyes went wide as she took off with surprising speed. "Wait up," Gale said as she followed suit. Fucking scroll down. There we go. Royce and Rezio had come across a massacre. Dead bodies piled up upon each other several feet high, all rotting and all what looked to be students. Some were just bones with a blackened tinge, like all the calcium was drained out. "What the fuck?" Royce commented as he and Rezio slowly made their way through. When they got close to the pile of bodies, Rezio heard some faint gurgling noises as she approached. She found a young woman with blonde hair and lilac eyes, still somehow alive, despite her bottom half being torn off and her entrails splayed across the ground. Rezio looked at the girl with her cold eyes and knelt down, placing her hand underneath her head. With a quick motion, she snapped the girl's neck, killing her instantly. Royce looked at her with an almost frightened look. Rezio turned to him with a raised brow. "What? Would you rather have her suffer?" she asked. Royce shook his head weakly. "No, it's just you did it so casually," he said, snapping out of his daze. "We should get..." Before he could finish, drops of a black viscid fluid dripped onto his armor. Steam began to raise from it, causing Royce to jump back. What he saw made his jaw drop. It was a grim unlike either of them had ever seen, with an arthropoidal head, complete with spider-like chelicerae and wide, multi-lensed eyes. The creature spread its flabby, grotesque wings, showing praying mantis-like arms, an armored segmented abdomen, reptilian clawed feet, and a neck that stretched out at least 6 feet. The way it extended was like that of a tortoise, with the skin folds to match. Both Royce and Rezio stared at the monstrosity with both fear and curiosity. The grim let out a haunting, indescribable shriek that snapped both of them back to reality. They readied their weapons and prayed to whatever god that might exist that they would live. And that's the end.
Nice.
Brrr.
That is creepy.
The girl
This is clearly-
torn in half reminds me of one of those Japanese demons.
What?
I forget which one it is.
Kitsune?
No, not that one. There is a Japanese demon of a woman who's been torn in half. If you see them, you're dead. Because if you turn away from them, they're faster than they look because they have to drag themselves using their hands.
I mean, the only demons I know are Kitsune, and I don't know if a Kappa is a demon.
Kappa? Yes.
A kappa is a yokai.
Yes.
I know the Yuki Onna because Symphony X wrote a song about it.
Then Izanami's a god.
She's a goddess.
Yeah, goddess.
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is a horror story.
Horror mixed in, but it's not completely horror. It's more or less taking the world of Ruby and making it what it should be.
Oh, okay. Now I understand.
Yeah, I did like I liked the moment with the neck snap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the not that the would you rather her suffer? No, but you did it so quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
quickly,
was
so
something that
casually.
That was the
this
moment
person
that-
has been so desensitized and perhaps a little too desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But that is what the world does to these people now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh,
next
yeah.
snapping moment was the one that's like, okay, this is definitely a horror story. Like,
Well, I mean, there are going to be horror elements, at least when the Grimm are there, because in the show, the Grimm are fucking pathetic pieces of shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be. Yeah, this tale is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Mhm.
But I
No,
am
it's
going to just give a little
Yeah.
spoilers. There's going to
Dark.
be no maidens, no magic, no gods, no relics, none of that nonsense. None of that.
We do have another guest coming on. Please allow me to bring them in.
Hello.
How's it going? How's it going, Count?
I
What
like
is the up, my domicile canid?
I like these intros. They're all very melodramatic.
Could
As
you
the one
please
belt
stop
philosopher
torching the
says in the
city?
other room.
But why are all so scary?
Because those were the themes I figured out. I could only find one cat person entrance. I could only find one good Snake Eyes clip.
Oh, I actually made a custom clip for myself, and it's from Lord of the Rings.
Oh really? What point is it?
It's the point where the Witch King pulls off his head and Starscream starts laughing his head off.
I found it. It's called a Teke Teke.
Oh, you mean the animated Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Oh, I have mixed feelings on that one.
Oh, I love the animated Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, in terms of adaptation, like it's such an abridged version of it. But when I'm talking about animated, I'm talking about The Hobbit and the Return of the King one, not the middle one.
yeah, let's react. I'd like to react to that one sometime, but we'll wait for a while.
Yeah.
You mean the Ralph Bakshi one?
Oh yeah, I hate the Ralph Bakshi one so much.
It does not hold up well.
I've
No.
actually seen that, but I know of it.
Look, guys,
Terrible.
the Ralph Bakshi one was different, so therefore it's good.
Yeah,
Balrog Butterfly.
Oh
yeah, it's a
no!
dude.
No!
The Balrog looks terrible, and like the orcs look terrible because the rotoscoping is awful.
No, the Balrog is supposed to be terrifying.
Yeah, he's a dude with a lion head with
Butterfly wings.
Oh no!
Look, okay, if you
no.
ever looked at a butterfly's face up close, like just get a good look at it, it is a horrifying creature.
And
I
like
haven't
also like
seen those.
and also yeah, the orcs are kind of a mixed bag because some of them look cool, and then other of them looks like some look
Yeah.
like racist caricatures, and then others looks fine, and others looks god ugly.
Oh god, yeah.
But their theme and the Battle Hymn Thief is cool.
Alrighty. I believe it is actually your turn, Holly Ninja, and then Count
Okay.
Valerian, and then I will go next. I don't know if Brent Discord is coming on. Hopefully he will be able to, but it seems as though he won't be able to.
Oh.
Yep. So these I have wrote 5 chapters of summary of a manga that I'm working on.
Oh nice.
Swoot.
Manga idea. And it's inspired by the works of a man named Gona Guy.
Oh, I know him. He made Violence
Do
Jack.
you do the artwork yourself too?
No, I'm gonna probably find somebody on that. Right now, I'm working on the writing department, and I find myself better to just do the outline first and then work on the actual scripting. Otherwise, nothing gets done because I get so nervous of not knowing how to write a comic book script.
Yeah.
All right. So chapter 1. Akira Sanaka was reintroduced to Christopher Dostoevsky during his first class at North Shore Community College. He was shocked to see that the once passionate son of a preacher, now a recluse. After class, Akira reconnected with Christopher and invited him to pick up Akira's cousin, Aaron. This excited Christopher because he has not seen her since the 3rd grade. At the airport, Christopher and Akira arrived at the terminal just as Aaron got out of the plane. Christopher was stunned by her angelic beauty. While they left the airport, someone was watching them. When they get to the Sanaka mansion, they got ambushed by an Oni, a Harionago, and a Minotaur demon, who infiltrated the mansion by killing and replacing the cleaning crew. Aaron and Akira are taken in the cleaning van, while Christopher was severely wounded trying to protect them. It is then when Christopher saw a ghostly man in a trench coat with green eyes and white hair. He introduced himself as Tapeworm, a demon who claimed to have made a deal with God that he would help Christopher fight the forces of hell through possession for his freedom from damnation in return. He also told Christopher that the demons who kidnapped Aaron and Akira are under the command of the demon known as Baphomet. He also explained that Aaron is incredibly important because of her bloodline, which is why she is being taken away. And, I kind of screwed up on some language here, but the offer goes as follows. In exchange for a soul, Tapeworm would make a Devil Knight pact with Christopher. A Devil Knight pact is a special deal where the terms of the deal favors the human rather than the demon. This is because the time specified is not the time that the human has left in life. Rather, it is the time he must live through to regain his soul. If he died, then his soul will be taken by the demon. What the human gets in exchange is the power of the demon through a pseudo-possession. The demon would live inside a human, but cannot totally possess him. Christopher initially refused the offer because he would rather die than become a demon. Tapeworm countered, surely a good man who has the greatest potential to do tremendous good would let a horrific evil happen to the ones he cares about most. He also added vivid detail of what is going to happen to Akira and Aaron in horrific fashion. Christopher reluctantly accepts the pact of the Devil Knight. Christopher woke up and found that no time has passed and renewed his assault. The demons realized that Christopher became a Devil Knight. The Minotaur commanded the Oni and the Harionago to deal with the Devil Knight while he completed the mission. He then drove away. The Harionago tried to slash at Devil Knight, only to realize that her hair hooks got grafted into his body. Devil Knight pulled her towards him, ripping her head, spine, and other bones out of her body. The Oni whacked Devil Knight against the garage wall with a baseball bat. Blood spurts out of Devil Knight's mouth. Devil Knight, in response, fire his knuckles out, blinding the Oni. He then retracted hands backwards, revealing his forearm bones that were shaped as a blade. Devil Knight stabbed the Oni through the temples, pulled the top of its head out. Devil Knight fell down, panting. "They were human?" Christopher inquired. "Yes," answered Tapeworm. At this, Christopher wailed, for the first kill is the most painful. So that's the summary of Chapter 1. Do you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chapter 2. After the battle, Christopher returned his bones back to where they should be. When his knuckle bones came back, they carried traces of the Oni's blood, which allowed Christopher to remember the last memories it had. This revealed a warehouse where they had a meeting with the cult of Salem. The cult leader ordered them to grab Aaron and Akira for the ceremony and bring them here. After acquiring that information, Christopher headed to the location with Akira, who brought weapons that can fight against yokai better. When they arrived at the warehouse, They found it to be completely disorganized till they traveled deep and found that it is purposely set up to be a maze. This is when the Minotaur attacked. Devil Knight managed to get Akira out of the way and counterattack, driving the Minotaur himself deeper in the maze. The Minotaur kept attacking Devil Knight out of nowhere. Devil Knight realized that the Minotaur makes a sound when it attacks. After this, he realized that it was no ordinary Minotaur. It could blend into shadows and move in between them. He let the Minotaur assault him to hook hair from the Herionga he killed last chapter onto the Minotaur's arm. He then pulled the hair, which ripped the Minotaur's arms off. This left a trail of blood, which Devil Knight exploited to win the battle by tracking the Minotaur down and bash its brains in with the arm. Devil Knight took a breath and started to search for Akira just as the lights came on. Do you want me to continue?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
Carry
Okay.
on.
And then let me just grab a quick swig.
Yeah. I like it so far. You're doing a very good job of outlining your thing.
Chapter 3. Akira found himself out of the maze. The sounds of growls, pain, and agony echoed in his mind. He started to search for the light switch. He flipped the switch. It didn't work. So he walked down the stairs to the basement. He shot the door lock off to gain access to the room with the fuse box. The fuse box was locked. So Akira searched the area. He found an office where all the bodies were placed in. He found a set of keys. As he walked out of the door, behold, a woman wearing a red mask appeared in front of Akira. "Do you think I'm pretty?" the woman asked. Akira casually walked to the fuse box full of sweat. He knew what this woman is. A spirit most likely from one of the workers. He had only a few seconds before, "Do you think I'm pretty?" she asked again, revealing the knife. He flipped the switch, turned to the woman, and looked at her beauty. "Yes, you're pretty," he said, as he ran up the stairs. When he got back to the light switch, the woman appeared, without her mask, exposing her sad expression, marred by the bloody smile that spanned cheek to cheek. "Do you still think I'm pretty?" she asked, as she approached Akira. He backed against the wall of the maze. "Do you still think I'm pretty?" she asked, with her knife drawn and tears of blood forming in her eyes. Devil Knight vaulted over the maze, landing in front of Akira. He grabbed the woman by the neck with his bloody hand. Akira it's supposed to be pleaded Christopher to let her live, for she needs healing. Devil Knight asked the woman what she can do to help Aaron. The woman led Christopher back to the basement. The basement was covered in ritualistic art. The woman said that she and her friends were part of a ritual to make more demons. Devil Knight sees a trail of blood leading into a giant room on the back wall. Akira approached the woman and said, "Yes, you are pretty. I am Akira Sanaka. What's your name?" The woman replied, "Ebony." Chapter 4. Aaron Tanaka remembered little of what happened after the ambush. She remembered being loaded in the van with Akira struggling. She remembered being dragged through a bloody symbol on the ground of a basement to a large portal. She regained consciousness in agony. She was nailed to the ground of Gallows Hill. Her clothes changed into a loose white dress. She looked to find people in a mockery of Puritan garments. The leader steps forth and calls for the beginning of the ritual, revealing his head to be a goat's head. Christopher looked at the wall in confusion. "So they used the portal," Tapeworm said. Akira comforted Ebony, who was crying on his shoulder out of joy. Christopher punched the wall in frustration. This led it into an argument between Christopher and Tapeworm. Christopher wanted to save Aaron. Tapeworm thought that saving Akira, killing demons, and sparing the yokai is a job well done. If Christopher wanted Aaron to be saved, he had to defeat and eat Baphomet's heart. For demon hearts are the results of long-term demonic possession. If a person is possessed for long enough, their souls gets consumed by the demon. Their hearts replaced by a demon heart. Thus, the demon can live on Earth as physical beings. If a Devil Knight eats a demon's heart, their power will greatly multiply at the cost of losing part of their soul. Christopher, driven by the need to rescue Aaron, said, "If my fate is to become a demon to protect God's land, so be it." Akira heard that phrase in shock. Having agreed to the terms, Tapeworm told Christopher that teleportation circles can be easily used by anyone with access to demonic powers. They just need to know the location, which can be easily done with mixing a demonic blood. Christopher ran back to the Minotaur, cut himself, and smeared the Minotaur's blood in it to him. He received a vision of events Aaron experienced from the Minotaur's point of view. When the Minotaur brought Aaron to Baphomet, there was a person in complete wizard garb and hooded figure. Baphomet ordered the Minotaur to guard the warehouse. Devil Knight asked Akira to stay behind. Akira drew his pistol with Ebony grabbing her knife. "We're coming," Akira said, "because I don't want to lose neither my cousin nor friend." Devil Knight looked at Ebony. "I don't want to be alone," she said. So together, the trio goes through the portal. The three emerged near the circle at Gallows Hills, surprising the cultists. The ritual has been progressing. Baphomet flew at Devil Knight. Devil Knight started to shoot his fingers off to take down Baphomet, but missed. Baphomet started to do flyovers, which cut through the armor, severing Devil Knight. Devil Knight morphed his arm into a hook and latched on to Baphomet. They fought in the sky. Meanwhile, Akira shot a couple of cultists while heading to Aaron. Ebony started to slash cultists up and teleported to dodge attacks. Akira tried to grab Aaron, but it was prevented by a wall of light. Aaron screamed in agony. The ritual was almost complete. The remaining cultists began their second phase. A demonic symbol began to draw over Aaron's forehead as her face started to change into the face of a geisha. Baphomet began to gloat to Christopher that there is no hope for Aaron. She was going to merge with the goddess and the cult's weapon to start their conquest of Earth. That is when Tapeworm gave a sinister laugh through Devil Knight. Baphomet screeched in horror, "Tapeworm!" Tapeworm gloated over Baphomet as the finger bones he shot at the beginning of the fight returned, piercing through Baphomet. Then Devil Knight drove Baphomet straight into the ritual. The resulting impact destroyed the ritual. Devil Knight rips Baphomet's heart and ate it. Blood still pumping. Power surged through Christopher, healing all of his wounds. The eating the heart gave Christopher another vision. Baphomet sat in an office in the dead of night. Behind that desk sat the hooded figure from the previous vision. The man told Baphomet that this was a huge risk, that he expected results from this operation. Baphomet was confident that the operation would go smoothly. Christopher turned to Akira and Ebony, who were frozen in fear. He looked at where Aaron laid, and Aaron staring at him with a bowed male light drawn at him. "I am Amaterasu, and I have returned to purge evil." Chapter 5. Devil Knight is stunned by what just happened. Aaron had merged with a spirit of light, and that spirit claimed to be the goddess Amaterasu, wanted to kill him. Akira tried to talk Amaterasu down, signed that it is Christopher. Amaterasu replied that Christopher is evil for merging with a demon. Devil Knight responded that Amaterasu is not so different. She is a demon who has possessed an innocent woman by an evil ritual, not by a contract. Angered, Amaterasu fired her light arrows at Devil Knight. He tried to block him with his armor, but they pierced with such force that he got flown back. Amaterasu gave chase, readying her bow to shoot again. Meanwhile, Aaron woke up in a similar mind space that Christopher was at Chapter 1. Amaterasu was there and spoke to Aaron like a caring mother. They discussed what happened. Once Aaron heard that she now had the power to balance the physical and spiritual world, she freaked because she wanted to do Nothing with it. That is why she came back to Salem in the first place. The fight between Devil Knight and Amaterasu continue in melee, with Amaterasu using a spear construct. During the battle, Devil Knight showcases his new power that he got from Baphomet, the ability to transmute objects he touches into whatever simple shapes with the same mass. He used this ability to transmute a tree into a volley of knives that Amaterasu defended, but one managed to cut her face. Amaterasu defeated Devil Knight and was about to deal the killing blow, but Aaron prevented her and took control of her body. Then Aaron fell on her knees while Devil Knight recovered from the fight and wept for what she had become. At this moment, Christopher and Aaron found out they can communicate with Tapeworm Amaterasu. Then they get approached by Akira, Ebony, and a squad of men in modern armor molded in the image of Crusader Commandos. Inspiration and design Crusader Knights x Republic Commandos. Guns raised. The squad leader said, target confirmed. And that's it.
Interesting.
Not bad.
Definitely put some thought into the story.
Oh man, I'm like stressed out right now.
The outline looks solid.
Yeah. So that's the basic. The basic premise was spawned out of me getting annoyed about the trope of you have angels. Oh yes, directed to us. It is Varagona Guy. In fact, it's basically the basic premise I would say is that the Christian version of Devilman. That would be the simplest thing. I'm basically taking
Okay.
you just take a Gona Guy story, a Devilman story, and then put it in a format of a Christian movie.
Okay.
Is there going to be a scene where some dude's being tortured with a chainsaw, like in Violence Jack?
Oh, I have not read Violence Jack yet. No. As far as I know, no. There's going to be a lot more. There is going to be a lot more darker elements. I'm going to do my own take of the 7 Deadly Sins. There is definitely going to be a lot of Japanese stuff. Tsukiyomi is in this universe, and that's going to be a major story point. I'm kind of considering how to do a Cthulhu fight with an Eldritch.
That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard.
Well, all I have to do is just explain what my take of the Eldritch gods are in this universe.
Well, because you're going to have to retool it, because Azathoth, like, existence is Azathoth's dream, and once he wakes, it all ends.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I'm not going to use Cthulhu.
Okay, you're not going to actually use the mythos. It's going to be something related. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I'm using I'm probably going to use Dagon.
Oh, Dagon. Dagon's cool. I like Dagon. He's just a really big, deep one.
Yeah.
Fishy little boy.
That's racist.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, so any thoughts, anything that I need to improve on?
This sounds like it'd be better with the visuals.
That's
the thing with reading an outline, especially with reading someone else's outline. I don't have access to your imagination. I don't know what you've and especially you mentioned you're going to be scripting this out before you shop it to an artist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, the plot outline is one thing, but it's plot outlines are easy enough to misrepresent as more interesting or less interesting, depending on your performance ability. So until we get like a script sample, that it's going to be a lot more difficult to say.
Okay. Yeah,
although I do have some resources I can shoot you on that subject.
Sure. The only thing I kind of noticed when I was reading it is that I didn't properly explain what he can do when he first got it. Got the powers. Like I got like the body deforming ability, but the other one is he can graft stuff onto his body. So
That's interesting.
And
I forgot.
Christopher and
I could-
Devil Knight are the same person, right?
what?
Christopher and Devil Knight are the same person, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Sorry about that.
yeah. It's essentially the same person.
So I completely forgot the last couple of times. I forgot to ask Count Valerian and Holy Ninja to introduce themselves to the chat. I am so sorry. Please tell us like a bit about yourselves and how you got into writing. What are some like your favorite genres to write, and what are your favorite aspects of writing?
Want to go first, Count?
Okay. What was the question again?
How did like you get into writing? What are kind of your favorite things to write, and what are kind of your aspirations as writers?
How did I get into writing? I think it started kind of basically. I started mainly with world building stuff. I've been making things up, languages and countries, for a long time, as in for several decades now. So,
Oh yeah, conlangers represent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, before it was conlang, it wasn't even called conlanging. We just said, "I'm going to make a language." We didn't have the word conlang back then. That's something that came, I think, in the '90s, if I'm not mistaken. We just said, "I'm going to make a language now," or something like that. So I've been doing that for a while. This world has existed in various iterations and forms for quite some time. There's a number of countries: Terrania, Sandaran, a bunch of countries, and they've existed in various forms for a while. I went through a period when it was definitely fantasy and elves and dwarves and stuff, and you couldn't. Dwarves and dragons were as common as roaches, and you couldn't walk 2 feet without tripping on one. Then I'm out of that now, but I guess I'm sort of still in the fantasy tradition, even though it's not. I don't know if it's precisely a fantasy that I'm writing, but I'm still kind of in that tradition, I guess. Mainly because I'm making up it's imaginary countries and places. If that helped at all.
It's kind of like mine, I guess. Making up your own countries, but keeping Are you keeping them like fantasy elements in, like magic and sorcery and stuff, or is it fairly mundane at this point?
At the moment, it's fairly mundane. I might put a little bit of fantasy later, but at the moment, it's pretty mundane because I don't want to put things in for the sake of putting them in. I want to be putting them in and have it feel like it flows from the story and belongs in the story. And at the moment, I'm not coming up with any directly fantasy things. I don't think there are going to be any dragons, I'm sorry to say.
Okay. Holy Ninja, please tell us a bit about yourself. As is your first time on the show.
Okay, where to begin? So yeah, I'm a writer I really would love to write comics, essentially comics or animated series. That's kind of like the dream. And it's would be more like a hobby, not so much a main career path. But I have been a huge fan of comic books for most of my life, and I have delved into writing, mainly about a superhero. I had an idea, which was like my take on Deadpool. A lot of those ideas got scrapped and actually being put into this Devil Knight story. What else? I think that's like I'm just a guy who's just trying to learn how to become a good writer.
Well, I wish you good luck.
Worthy aspiration.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
I aspire to become a better writer every day.
Same.
It's a long journey of self-improvement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a long, thankless journey.
Oh yeah. Life is
Thankless and
short.
bankless.
That too.
That's fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. Extremely fun.
Yes.
Look, if J.K. Rowling can do it, then anyone can.
Yeah.
Ooh, shots fired.
I would say if Ta-Nehisi Coates can write,
Oh
then
my god, yeah, his first issue of Black Panther sold like 250,000. Oh my god, that makes me sad.
and his political writing sucks. So
Well, it's because Ta-Nehisi Coates a fucking twat.
Yeah.
all right,
Okay.
just moving right along.
Yes. We'll talk Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm interested to hear your rant later. But yeah. Alrighty. Count Valerian, it is your turn.
All right, it's my turn. You'll find out how pitiless I am right now. Okay. So you're all minimized now. Oh, pardon me a moment. I'm trying to open my document. Pardon me.
Alrighty.
This won't take long.
J.K. Abrams.
I feel assaulted by that name.
Oh my god.
Dumbledore was the big gay guys. Wizards poop through magic.
That's not how magic works.
Nobody cared what
Yeah.
Dumbledore's orientation was. There was no impact on the plot.
Look. Okay, but here's the thing. If wizards can magic poop out of their body, they could magic like people's organs, couldn't they? I think that's more pressing.
They could, I suppose.
Well, there was a great rant that the Dom did about one of the about how Voldemort was conceived, and he said, I'm paraphrasing it. He said basically, so Voldemort's mother used magic to take away his father's consent. That's rape. That's literally rape. She's using magic to remove someone's ability to consent. And wait a minute. Wait, they use the polyjuice, the lover potion? Fred and George sell this shit to teenagers legally. The entire wizarding world condones date rape. Azkaban! Everyone!
It's a drug.
Okay.
And I don't think she realized what she was doing when she introduced the concept.
Okay,
Yeah.
what did I needed to grab a quick break, and then I came back and date rape? Why?
Look, we're talking
Yeah.
about J.K. Rowling's bullshit Twitter retcons.
Oh no. Which
See, wizards can magically remove poop from their bodies, so you could have just removed Voldemort's brain from his body and he'd be dead.
Oh.
And which
you can remove
one was
brain,
was
get
that Half-Blood?
make it turn good.
Was that Half-Blood Prince? The Dom's review, I mean, because I want to watch.
Yeah, Half-Blood Prince.
Okay.
I'm ready now, by the way.
Alrighty.
sorry.
You can pull it up.
uh,
It's a pretty big video to sit through that.
Well, I'll watch it on my own. I think I've watched it previous, but I didn't remember that. But yes, go for it.
Okay. It was not long after their 12th birthdays that Margaret and Barama were summoned to the court. Tiaku, who by now was ensconced at court as a Sarangi, 9th class, may have been partly to blame for the celerity of the invitation. This was because, despite her arrogance and disdain for Margaret's, quote, peasant, end quote, culture, she fully accepted the principle that foster sisters and cousins should help each other, and thought she was doing Margaret a favor by recommending her to exalted ear. And Barama was her brother, so of course she had to speak up for him too, albeit in hopes of getting him a more salubrious position than that of Sarangi. I'm sorry, I typed if instead of. I need to correct that. Pardon me a second. there, Saranji. It was true that she had not found the experience of being at court as enjoyable as she had anticipated, as the debauchery was a little much, and the éclat did not meet her provincial expectations. But she still felt certain that it must be the best place on earth, and considered herself childish for disliking the Emperor's proclivities, which may best be described by saying that the Emperor Ekwekwe IV wasn't too fussy about how, with whom, or with what he coupled. He was often, in private, compared to Garawad the Mad, an ancient Iranian king with a similar lifestyle. Margaret's parents saw things a little differently and had long discussions about how to handle the situation without selling their daughter into lust slavery on the one hand or getting killed on the other. Even Garawada's daughter Chiyaku is too young, protested Pilamar to his wife. The two were in their chambers in the third tower. The count was pacing around the bedroom while the countess embroidered a tapestry on the virtue of chastity. I will not pimp my own daughter. I will not. The whole thing is revolting. Markaruna put down her needle and looked at the symbols of Sacred Nine that were painted on the bedstead. Didn't Sandaran used to be a light of truth? The birthplace of holy missionaries to our lands? That was before they fell under Chuggan influence and decided to become an empire. It's gone downhill ever since. Yet the Count durst not refuse the summons altogether. Luckily, the summons didn't explicitly require more than that Margaret be, quote, introduced, end quote, to the Emperor. So he resolved to take her to court, make an introduction, and then go home. Well, not making the customary offer to the Emperor's Verusa. This was dicey, but seemed the least bad alternative. Perhaps he would not have consented to do even this much had he known how depraved the court, just how depraved the court had become. Garawada and Imuni were of like mind. How abominable, said the Countess. Varama will not be joining the Verusa, not now, not ever. Count Garawada reassured his wife as they were preparing for bed. Power does not abrogate righteousness. Piran Banyupirihai Para. This was a legal maxim from the great commentary on the Book of Prophets, Chauramyad in Yahtari, which Garawada liked to quote, and which Imuni therefore had learnt by heart. Imuni kissed the sacred image of Ru, as she had done every night since their wedding day. Garawada smiled. As for Margaret and Barama, they had no wish to go to court at all. Everything they had ever heard about it had put them off. Long ago, the ancestors of the Sandaranians had migrated eastward to the Isthmus of Sandaran from the northerly island of Ijibalaga and had conquered its inhabitants, who were distantly related to Acarians and Turanians, making it their own. Their chief seat was in the city of Tena, on the Isle of Ndugala, just to the west of the isthmus and across the Sea of Sanda from the island of Oro, where Ichalumu lay. The Sandaranians had had several kingdoms until the kings of Tena had conquered the rest. They had thereafter been converted to the truth and the way, and had sent missionaries to Mindar and to the various Mindarite kingdoms, including Ichalumu. For many centuries, Sandaran had been not too different from these Mindarite kingdoms. Relatively primitive, at least compared to Turania and Akari, but also relatively free. But then, in the 8th century AD, I might change that, the Chuggans had conquered it and installed their governors in Tena. These governors had eventually intermarried with the descendants of the Sanduranian kings and had acquired a certain local pride. And when the Chuggins weakened, the governors had thrown off their yoke and created an empire of their own, conquering among other lands those of the Mindarites. Yet the court had remained half Chuggin in character and alien in its customs to the rest of the Uchandraist world. The institution of the Berusa, which was a kind of harem, was only the most piquant of these differences. Concubines existed elsewhere, but not to this extent. Custom dictated that when a child was born into the nobility, he or she must be listed in the imperial registry. When these children fulfilled their 12th year, the command would go out that they be introduced to the emperor. And this introduction had of late acquired a tinge of the less than wholesome, especially since Ekwekwe IV, under Ekwekwe IV. It was therefore an obligation Pilamar and Garawada would rather have done without. Other lords might be happy to sell their children's honor for the imperial favor, but these two were of stronger stuff, and the Chugganized customs of Tena had not yet wholly won out on Oro. So they insisted upon accompanying their children to court to protect them. Margaret kept begging to be excused, but was told there was no help for it. Barama says his friends say the emperor is even worse than Garawad the Mad, she said. What do you know of Garawad the Mad? Said Pilamar a little sharply. Garawad the Mad's lifestyle was not considered a fit subject for girls to read about. Only that he went mad after catching the queen kissing another man and married several women and stuff. Then he decided he was a god and began eating people. He was really gross. Yes. Well, we'll have to check your reading to make sure that it's appropriate. Meanwhile, I fear that the emperor must be obeyed. My friend Sanoin doesn't have to go. In Darzaz, they can afford to pay less heed to the emperor than we. It's farther away from the centers of power. Why can't we move to Darzaz? Asked Margaret, with a bit of whine in her voice. Because we have duties to our people and our house, replied Pilamar. And that was that. Okay, there we go. That is that.
Nice. Nice. Very
Very
nice.
good. Yeah.
Stuff is starting to have. Stuff
Very
is
good.
starting to
Very
happen
good
now.
indeed, yes.
Yeah. Let's see. I like the way you make it very clear the gender roles and the restrictions placed on men and women in this society. It really sets up the restrictions and what I said. I did think that the early on the description of the geography that kind of dragged a bit. And I'm thinking, do you have a map already drawn up for this world?
There is a map actually. I have it on my computer. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can load it onto the video or not. I don't know I don't know if I can do that. I could try.
If you open it on your screen and share your screen, you can show us.
Well, not necessarily to like question any particular things, but the when you were describing the layout of the geography in the narrative, it did result in a lot of very, very short sentences. Like the capital was there was an isthmus, and like other short like simple sentences, and I generally try to avoid sentences like that. That might be just me, but generally speaking, if you just have a little statement like that, you probably could find a way to slip that into another sentence, a larger, more significant sentence that might be able to tie it in with the narrative, just to avoid going off on a bit of a digression for the sake of exposition.
Yeah, it's a bit exposition-y. There hasn't been much exposition yet, mainly because I haven't read much exposition yet. But yeah, that's a little exposition-esque.
Well, it could always be worse.
Oh,
You could be David Weber.
Who? What? Where? Why? How?
Yeah.
Who's David Weber? I'm not familiar.
David Weber is the guy who wrote the Honor Harrington series, which is a very good series, has some very nice characters that I do like, but he does have a tendency to interrupt the final climactic spaceship battle for 3 pages of explanation about how faster than light travel works.
Oh,
And
that is a thing. Look it up.
Oh.
So, yeah, just a little perspective. It's not that bad.
it's just jarring at points.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Let's see. Okay, I'll open this thing and see what happens. Let's see what happens when I share a screen. Does something weird happen? Let's see. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we'll see what happens. And it's taking a moment because it's my computer. Oh, it looks like looks like it's grayed out for some reason. Oh, I see now. Okay. But I've never done this before. Let's see. Is it coming up? Let me see. No, I don't see it.
I just added it.
There we go.
Oh, that's nice.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very nice. Yeah.
The only trouble is you can only see the northern part on this. You can't see the bits that are actually in the story. That's the only problem.
Huh.
Is it possible to go down somehow?
Well, go to view. And you should have, let's see. You should have a zoom button. If you zoom out, we should be able to see the entire map.
Pardon the delay. You can carry on talking while this is happening.
No, it's fine. Yeah, let me pull up my submission for this week real quick.
Okay.
Yay.
But yeah, so I guess like for the 5 people who are in chat, what would be like a commentary that y'all would like us to do? Since we did Dracula yesterday, and I think that one that might be fun is the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings. Because
yes.
Do that one.
I could do that. I could drop in for that.
Yeah, mostly because
At least with Lord of the Rings, I know how it's gonna go, and I know it's not horror.
this actually.
Yeah, there's some parts in this one that might as well
I
be.
know that there's some parts that are terrifying. Balrog.
the Balrog in this is hilarious, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Balrog is hilarious.
but my point is, it's supposed to be scary. It's not supposed to be silly. So I know there are parts that are going to be scary, but I can handle it because that's not actually the genre.
Honestly,
At least I hope, anyway.
So actually, I actually think that what is it?
Ring race.
I think the movie as a whole is actually scarier than Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it is.
It's more brutal. There's actually more blood in that 2 hours than in all of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I were kidding, but in this it's 2D animated, but it's got like some really bad rotoscoping.
Oh yeah, it looks real tismy.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll have fun with that because we get to make fun of stuff like the rotoscoping.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But yeah, let me pull up my thing and I'll be able to read it. This one is the chapter 2 of a book that I started a while ago. I haven't finished, but this is just kind of a little section. So this book is called Rule of Madness, and this is basically just a horror entry that I thought might be fun to do. Let me load it real quick. Okay. Eyes intent on the book before her, Aaliyah carefully moved the fingers of her right hand to the corner of the page and turned it. The right side of her face twitched, the slight notion of a seizure playing at the edge of her mind. Swallowing, she closed her eyes to steady herself, letting them rest as she tried to think through what she'd just read. Her left hand spasmed, causing her to reach over and grasp her wrist with her free hand. "Damn it," she muttered, voice slightly slurred. "Damn the gods for doing this to me." Grimacing, she looked back down at the book, still gripping her spasming hand. "Only a bit more time," she thought as she examined the book, eyelid twitching. "After all these months of searching, I won't have to suffer with this body anymore." Still shaking, she slowly stood up and began limping toward the door of the library, slightly dead foot only able to support her weight with the help of a crutch. She'd had to make the addition of a strap for her dead end so it actually stayed gripped to the crutch, but it was easy to get free with her other hand. The old Hologorath Academy was the largest institution of knowledge in the north, but that wasn't saying much anymore. Oh, it was quite large, an imposing building made of rough marble. But a black watermark staining the walls, and plants grew up through the windows in the walls. Before our Sunhaven had decimated the north, it had been well populated, but now, after the attack on the north from Sunhaven, much of the walls of the ancient building were silent and empty, save for a few acolytes fighting the feudal war to maintain what was left of the once shining light of knowledge. Sad they didn't guard it better, Aaliyah thought grimly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so desperate that they would allow a cripple to start cleaning the library and making sure that mice didn't eat the paper. Absently, she licked the dead side of her face, though the only sensation was her tongue brushing something dry. Not even the slightest pressure. Slowly, she limped toward a set of double doors, the hinges stained with rust. Live bits of her body shaking just as much as her palsied half. Aaliyah pulled out the keys from her side. Her hand shook as she slid the corresponding key into the door. It opened slowly, revealing a large room with a spiral staircase leading downward into the depths of the academy. Carefully, she slid through the doors and pushed it closed, then locked it again. Crutch clacking against the stones, Aaliyah walked toward the steps, then looked downward. A long staircase going deeper and deeper downward, seemingly forever. To Aaliyah's eyes, it wasn't at all black, just mildly gray. "You're a freak," her father's disgusted voice in her head. "You're Shadowborn, no doubt about it." Far from gaining sympathy, her sudden palsy had only seemed to validate her father's aggression. "It's the gods punishing you for your stealing ways, you little monster," he growled as he carried her to the caretakers looking for people to help maintain the academy. "Better to be somewhere you'll be useful than here," he growled, even as her mother had pleaded with him to let Aaliyah stay. "I'm not cursed," she whispered, taking a first step down onto the staircase. "I'll show all of them." Swallowing, she began limping down the staircase, Good Egg beginning to ache as he took most of the weight of her body up to the first few steps. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, she laboriously made her way downward, deeper down the stairwell. The only thing stronger than her pain was the need for what was hidden down in the depths of the academy. They set her to cleaning the easiest places, making as many concessions as they could to her crippled state. So it was the lower sections of the library where the small basement rooms made it easy so that only short cells could fit. "If I ever get down there, Aaliyah thought, grimacing at the pain in her leg, "I'll have to thank old Bayrock for giving me this job." Licking her mouth, Aaliyah used her good hand to support herself on the banister, taking a little weight off her leg. "I want to be free of this," she thought, trying to squelch the pain with a promise of relief. "I will have what is due me." Just as she reached what she assumed was the middle, Aaliyah's crutch slipped, causing her feet to go out from under her. With a slurred shriek, Aaliyah tumbled down the stairs, her crutch still tied to her arm. She tried to get it free, but the tumbling threw her off, so she couldn't do much more than scream when the crutch splintered underneath her, one of the chunks of wood driving into her living leg. Down and down she fell, until finally she rolled onto a set of flagstones. Tears flowing from her eyes, Aaliyah reached down to her leg and nearly screamed again. Her good leg might have gone numb, but that was only because there was a chunk of wood in her leg, blood trickling down her foot. Tentatively, she moved her good arm down to her dead arm and swallowed as she felt the broken bits of bone under the skin. "I have to keep going," she thought, fervently dragging herself forward. "I have to do this. If I don't, I'm dead." Another door was in front of her, this one made of pure white, almost luminescent metal. To her eyes, it seemed to glow slightly. Fighting through the pain in her side, Aaliyah grabbed the keys from where they'd fallen she dragged herself to the door. Grimacing, she raised her free hand and grasped onto one of the door handles to pull herself to a sitting position. Grunting, she raised her good hand and pressed the key into the door. "Just a little bit more," she thought eagerly as the key clicked and the door slowly opened. "Only a little bit left." The door slid open, revealing a darkness so black that even Aaliyah couldn't see into it. As if it were a thing alive, the shadows flooded through the doors and toward her. Finally, she thought as she opened her mouth, for the shadows to flood into her mouth, out and down her throat. Pain flared across her left side, the first feeling she'd felt in that part of her body in years. The chunk of wood disintegrated, leaving nothing behind but smooth skin. Leah's eyes flicked to her hand, only to let out a muffled scream as rippling bits of bone began forming under her skin, intricate overlapping bone scales appearing on the crippled part of her body. "What is it doing to me?" she thought curiously as the darkness consumed her. And let me see. Aaliyah's eyes slowly opened, and this is skipping to chapter 6. Aaliyah's eyes slowly opened, throat dry. Swallowing, she moved her hand down to her right leg. Nothing. Just smooth skin. Breath coming in spurts. Aaliyah tentatively moved her right hand to her left leg. It was as if her leg had been asleep for a long time and was just barely coming back to feeling. Gasping in amazement, Aaliyah raised her left hand and flexed it, ignoring the strange, overlapping rippling ripples of bone rising from her skin. "I'm whole again," she whispered. "You're welcome, little one." The shadows writhed around her, whispering things in her ear. Indescribable things, horrors and wonders, what was out there in the world, from the highest peaks to the dark depths of the ocean. Knowledge of crafting anything from the most intricate spells to the most plain of pickaxes flooded into her. Sighing, she let herself rest, lulled into sleep by her new friends. They had to be her friends. They'd helped her, hadn't they? Eventually, though, her stomach began to complain, so all of her needs weren't fixed. After a few tentative test movements, Aaliyah stood up. For the first time in years, she stood unsupported on her own 2 feet. Ah, sighing in relief, she raised her left hand, looking over the strange growths on her arm. Slowly, she put her hand to her face, only to feel similar coiled growths of bone on her face, running down from her left eye and down her cheek toward her arm and leg. Tentatively, she took a step, then another. Aaliyah curled up her toes inside her shoes as she hopped up and down. Laughing, she took off up the stairs at a dash. What had once taken an hour took only a few minutes of running. Still giggling, Aaliyah emerged from the stairwell, then slid the key into the lock and opened it up to reveal a group of acolytes standing outside the door. "What the hell have you done?" one of the women shouted. "Fixed myself." Aaliyah raised her hand and gave the assembled caretakers a slow wave. Your face." One of them recoiled from her casual gaze. "We have to exorcise the demons," one of them remarked. "It's the only way to keep her from being killed." Better to be dead than being a cripple, Aaliyah thought, reaching out to her new friends. "Help me." Chittering eagerly, the voices in her head began whispering instructions to her. Casually, she made a few broad hand raises with her left hand. The strange riveters glowed purple and went immobile. Then the poor acolytes dropped to the ground, clutching their heads and screaming. Confused, Aaliyah looked down at her left hand and delicately tried to flex it. "So, this power has a cost," she remarked. She massaged her hand and rushed toward the kitchens. She needed to leave, and she needed something to cover up her deformities, even if it was just to keep people from remarking on her face. Grimacing, she put a hand to her face, massaging the strange contusions. Over a week later, pack clanking against her back and a mask covering the left side of her face, Aaliyah walked toward the town of Derry, golden coins spinning through the fingers of her right hand. As she entered the more seedy areas of the city, her hooked nose wrinkled slightly. Her soft brown hair brushed the back of her neck, hand resting on the knife at her belt. "Bit of a step up from the Holgaroth Academy." She rolled her coin through her fingers. "This is very nice." Memories of the shadow slipping toward her, enveloping her, filled her mind. Aaliyah let herself bask in the memory. Everyone had been so scared after she'd gone down to the basement of the academy, but whatever was down there hadn't hurt her. In fact, it had done the opposite. It filled her mind with knowledge, so much information that her mind had nearly broken, but here she was, perfectly sane. Giggling, Aaliyah drew her knife and skewered an apple from a street vendor's cart and tossed the small girl manning the table the coin she'd been toying with. Grinning contentedly, she tugged the apple off the knife and started snacking. They'd been scared of her, but they'd been right. The darkness had told her what to do, and they'd come for her. They thought they could exorcise her, what they had taken her over, giving her a new life. The darkness had fixed her, given her knowledge, opened her eyes to what was around her. It was all so predictable, so easily quantifiable. She hadn't had to hurt them that much, physically at least. She'd just overloaded their minds with the most horrifying knowledge she'd found, leaving them to scream on the floor. Licking her teeth at the memory of what she had done. It was only fair. They'd have done worse to her. Aaliyah spun the knife through her fingers, casually considering her options. What to do? She wondered, tapping the blade against her chin. What shall I do first? As if her question had triggered them, the shadows started whispering in her mind. Ah, she whispered, taking the black runes from her pack. Casually, she gripped them in her hand, drawing on the power of shadows. Once it had built up inside her, Aaliyah began making slight gestures with her fingers at her side, then followed by a snap. The left side of her face went dead, eyelid freezing into place. Instantly, as she looked at a person, she knew who they were, and more importantly, what was in their minds. One was an apprentice cobbler who was trying to get the courage to leave her master. Not terribly riveting. More juicy was a young man trying to handle the fear that he'd have to ask the father of the girl he'd been sleeping with for permission to marry her before the pregnancy was discovered. Interesting, particularly the memories she was trying to squelch, but not what she needed. She needed a criminal, someone who could show her where she could sow seeds and quickly build up money. That's what they kept whispering in her mind. A place for her to be safe, where she would never have to worry. Unfortunately, the place was beyond the sea as far as the voices could tell. Do you happen to have any information for me other than where it is? She asked, tilting her head as if she was listening to something physical. The mass of chittering voices sounded in her head. Not really coherent right now. It seemed as though she would have to figure this out on her own. Something about this town didn't quite feel like it clicked with her. As if there was not enough darkness here for her to tap into. She would need to simply get some supplies and leave. Moreover, as she walked through the town, she smelled something, like a trace of darkness wafting in the wind. Interesting, she mused, casually following the whiff. It wasn't very strong, but it was something. Unfortunately, it moved through the town and out toward the south. A person, then. She flexed her left hand, still reveling in the movement in her hands. Voices in her head became more and more eager as they walked into the stable where the darkness had been. What do you want, girl? The stable master asked. Casually, Aaliyah pulled out a gold piece. I'm searching for somebody who's stayed here. She came down from the north and left quickly, she remarked. Where'd you steal that? She remarked, The academy, she thought, letting the hidden half of her mouth quirk in a smile while keeping the rest of her face serious. I have a wealthy investor who is rather committed to finding the person who stayed here. Can you give a description? The stable master sounded tired. A little help would be nice, she thought toward the voices. Her hand locked up as the creatures drew power from her body, just as a shadowy figure appeared before her leading a horse. A tall, dark-haired woman with tan skin, she remarked. She had a black horse. Oh, that one. The stable master nodded, and the image that Aaliyah saw in his head matched the image she had seen. But there was a slight tinge of heavy lust attached to it. She was very attractive, but Aaliyah found the man's thoughts rather distasteful. Which way did she go? Aaliyah pulled out another coin. I need a horse. Aaliyah rode through the gates, her gray mare riding down south. I will be free of this completely, she flexed her left hand. I will never be helpless again. And that's the end.
Nice.
Indeed. That's some very good rat.
Thank you.
That was chilling.
Oh yeah. those shadows definitely want something from her.
Yes.
Yeah, she could have made a deal with the devil.
Pretty
And
much,
then it
yeah.
just turns out that the shadows just wanted the recipe for some good loaded potatoes.
Clearly.
Yeah, they just wanted to talk.
Look! We need to save what we love, not destroy what we hate.
You mean we can't do both?
No, that's impossible. That's what Ryan Johnson told me.
That's true.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for coming over today. Please pimp your stuff.
Okay, you can
Oh,
find
okay.
you can find me over on Space Battles, Questionable Questing, and Sufficient Velocity. Though Space Battles is where I'm the most active. So drop by and leave a comment if you happen to have
An account there.
an account there. Yes, please.
All right. Well, I've definitely already mentioned my secret Discord server, access through my Patreon page, where you can watch me write in real time. But if you still need to get caught up on the first book in the series, you can pick up a copy of that. The ebook is free to download, so that's fun.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes.
I think we're going in that direction. Yeah.
So does this mean pimp like all your stuff or just writing stuff?
Whatever you
want.
Yeah. pretty
Okay,
much.
so if you want to read Go Team Ranger Go, you can go to fanfic.net. I believe I'm still under my old name. Let me check right here because it's totally professional. It's under Dragonlord 572. So if you want to just read that, go ahead. I also has a YouTube channel called Jake the Surgeon, and I'm currently doing a Let's Play of Pokemon Coliseum. And when OBS doesn't decide to kill 20 minutes of footage, it's actually kind of fun.
Alrighty.
So there's that.
You just find me on Discord, on Lore Commander Dunn's Discord, and on various chats.
Cool. Well, and Count Valerian, do you have anything that how can people find you or your work?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of finding me, you'd also find me on Lord Commander Chap's Discord. There's a website where I and some friends did some weird Tolkien-related parodies. I'm not sure of the URL because it's for the website that it's mirrored. There's like, for example, there's a bizarre Tolkien worshipping cult that are also extreme capitalists. So in terms of stuff on the web, that's what exists.
Praise be to Eowyn and her terrible tasting stew. Wait, is that Eowyn or Arwen? I always get those sorts of
Eowyn.
Yeah, it's
Eowyn's the one
Eowyn.
with the horrible stew.
Arwen's
How do
too
you
pretty to
mess
make
up
stew.
How do you mess up stew? That's just
It's bad. Yeah, and it just looked like it's raw and wriggling. I guess Smeagol would like her. I guess Smeagol would like her cooking.
yeah. He doesn't like potatoes.
Boil, mash them, stick them in the stew. Boil, mash them, stick them in the stew.
It sounds is disgusting.
Getting out of her house.
Nice impression.
How dare you?
Nice
All right.
impression.
Keep your times as insulted. We doesn't no losers. Not unless we're starving or very sick.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all. Please, if you want to chat with all these wonderful writers, please join the Discord. If you have any suggestions for what you would like to us to talk about, please come to the Discord or put them here in the comments. I will definitely respond to anything you give. And please, now you must all.
Uh-oh.
Holy shit. Okay, we're going.